thank you so much for letting me do your birth chart reading. You do have one of those birthdays where it's hard to know for sure exactly how everything lines up in your chart without knowing your time. So getting your birth time today was definitely a treat, and I'm excited to dive into your birth chart reading and get to know you even more, a little bit more. I really appreciate that, Stacy. So the first thing that we will start off with, I will say I have your cards pulled, and I can see right away that you have a lot of fire and water in your chart. So fire represents like action and just doing things, like being about it, and water is going to represent like emotions and feelings and things like that. So you have a lot of that type of energy going on, and just a little bit of air, which is thinking and communicating. And then I don't see any earth in your personal planets, which is like practicality and grounding. Okay, so we'll start with your rising sign. Now, your rising sign is how you appear when you first meet people and in new situations. And it also starts off your chart. So it kind of determines how everything is going to line up in your chart. And like this birth wheel is going to represent different aspects of life. So you have an Aries rising, so your chart lines up like exactly how it should be. Aries represents self, and that's what you have in your first house. So in your first house of self, you have Aries energy. So this is a fire sign. So Aries are very like about it. They're a cardinal sign and they're fire. So it's initiating and creating new ways of thinking and acting on things. So that's the type of energy that you have when you first meet people. And it's kind of like, I think, like an overall sprinkle in your personality. So I'll go ahead and read what I have written here on the cards. So Aries rising engages courageously. They take initiative. They thrive in new situations. They act before thinking sometimes. They're straightforward and honest. So that's like how you appear when you first meet people. I noticed Aries risings, they're very quick to jump in and get things started. They're very initiative and pioneers and just being that trailblazer. So particularly in new situations and when you first meet people, you know, you'll be very bold and daring and courageous. I mean, girl, I think I put this on your Facebook the other day, but like I remember the first time that I met you and you were like doing gymnastics and swinging from the balance beams and everything. I'll never forget that memory, and that's very much Aries like. So that's your rising sign. Next, we'll move on to your sun sign, which I'm sure you're probably already super familiar with. You have a Leo sun. And your sun is basically your actions and how you're seen in the world, like how you shine. And Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun is at home in Leo. So it's exactly where it's supposed to be. So your actions and everything is, you know, it jives up well with the sun energy. And as I'm sure you know, Leo is that regal, that king of the jungle, that royalty, just that, like that bad bitch vibe. And it's just like a warm and sunny, like sunshiny vibe. So that's a Leo sun. They're actually, you know, they're gonna get a lot of attention naturally. That's just who they are. Like, it's the sun. So I'll go ahead and read what I have on the cards for you. So Leo sun exists charismatically. They're entertaining and dramatic. They love attention. They're lighthearted and warm. And they could have a tendency to be a little bit self-centered. After all, the world does revolve around the sun, so that makes complete sense. Now, with all of that light, sunny, warm energy, that's your actions, that's your outer self, how you appear in the world. Now, your moon sign is your inner self, your reactions, your private life, like your private self, and your emotional nature. So with all that warm sunshine, everything's cool, energy that you have, underneath that all, we have a Scorpio moon. And this is a woman with passion. This is a woman with intense emotion. This is a woman with depth. So to me, your moon is really who you truly are on the inside. And luckily for you, you have that strong Leo sun to protect your Scorpio moon. So this placement can be particularly challenging because the moon actually falls in Scorpio. So when it comes to your emotions and your reactions, your inner self, you it's kind of like in a dream-like state. So it's not like your emotions are out for display for everyone to see, and it's kind of like in a dream world. And what happens when you're dreaming and when you're sleeping and then something or someone comes and wakes that up? A lot of times it's going to be an intense reaction, right? If you were sleeping and somebody woke you up, I mean, you might wake up angry, like, what the fuck, you're waking me up. If it's in a loving manner, you might wake up, delighted and full of, fulfillment in your heart and everything, and so on. So you can actually compare that to like the real world. Your emotions are, it can be like in a dream state, and it takes certain things to kind of wake that up. And also too, a lot of times with Scorpio moon placements, people might think that you're a little bit closed off emotionally, or that you don't care, you're super nonchalant, but that's not the case at all. Scorpio moon placement actually has very intense emotions. They're just not going to show that to everybody. They know that, it can be frightening to people sometimes. And also, it's a very secretive energy, so that can be kept to themselves. This is one of the things that gives Scorpio moon so much that mysterious energy, and people are just going to be drawn to you. You have to be careful. I'm sure you are, we learn so much in life, so I'm sure you've learned already, but you have to be careful of people coming in and using you for that energy, or even, vice versa, and using other people and things like that, because that is some of the energy that's involved with Scorpio. There's really like so much that could be said about this placement. It's a fascinating placement, and if you haven't already figured this out about yourself, I would encourage you to like go on YouTube and start researching Scorpio moon, because it is one of the reasons that that got me started into astrology. It's a very intense placement and a very beautiful placement. Like Scorpio moons can be, some of the most loving, warm, loving, loyal people that you will ever meet. But also, they go through a lot internally that nobody knows about. So yeah, I can just go on and on about that. But I would encourage you to look more into that, and then I'll go ahead and read your card for this. So Scorpio moon feels intensely. They crave a deep emotional connection. They keep emotions sacred. They're reserved with emotionally. They can be obsessive and have an all or nothing style. Like, we're not going to be doing any in between, halfway bullshit. And also, this is ruled by Mars, so you have a strong determination and passion. Anything that you want in this world, you can have it if you put your emotions into it. You put your heart into it, and it's yours. Better believe it. All right, so that was your moon. Next, we'll move into your Mercury. So your Mercury is going to be how you think and communicate. And you have here like a feisty Leo Mercury. So Leo Mercury is a really cool placement. I mean, we talked about Leo energy being like bold and dramatic and entertaining. So your communication style is going to be like that. It's like you have the spotlight, you have the mic, and people just love to hear you talk and tell stories, and it's so intriguing and it's so dramatic. It's like watching a movie. And also, you can be very funny. So that's like some of my thoughts on Leo Mercury. I think it is, yeah, it does fall here. So you might just have like a little bit of issues with communication, like misunderstandings and things like that and stuff like that, because it's also like in that dreamlike state, like the moon. So I'll go ahead and read the cards. So this is speaks proudly, entertaining style of speech, can be dominating, bold ideas, and warm and confident. So that's your communication style. Next, we'll move into your Venus, which is how you love. And you have actually a Cancer Venus. So now there's a few things too that I'll add about a Cancer Venus. So there's a quote that says, I will care, but I will not love, because if I love, I will put up a show. And a lot of people probably wouldn't say that about that placement, but I can speak to that. And you can see, that Cancer is represented by the crab, and it has that tough outer shell. So like, if you start to like somebody or something, you're probably going to show a lot of care, nurturing energy. You're going to take care of them, like mother them and stuff like that. And that's how you kind of show your love. But once things get a little bit deeper, and this is just my personal opinion, you probably wouldn't find this on the internet or anything, but once it gets a little bit deeper, things get a little scary, right? And that's when that shell can come up, and it might be a little bit colder there. So just like working to, release that shell and everything, and trusting and love and stuff like that. These are the things that we're all trying to learn in life, right? There's another thing about this placement, and you could tell me if you agree with this or not, or but I think Cancer Venus, this is like how you love and what you love. And when it comes to guys and love and stuff like that, I think this placement has is a little partial to people with the tragic touch. So somebody that you can kind of nurture and help, and like looks like they need you a little bit, you might be attracted to that style. Now you also have a Leo sun and other placements, so you're not going to want any little weakling or anything like that. But I think you could probably think about that and let me know, if you agree or not. So I'll go ahead and read the cards for Cancer Venus. This is love sentimentally, cautious in love, a sucker for vulnerability, caring and nurturing, and also definitely trouble letting go. So next we have your Mars. So your Mars is how you take action and how you go for your goals, and your ambition and drive. So you have it here in the sign of Libra. Now Libra is a very diplomatic sign, always weighing out the pros and cons of situations, keeping things fair and just, and things like that. So I'm not super familiar with this placement, but I would just imagine it's a lot of like when you're going for your goals, trying to think how it will affect other people, weighing out the pros and cons, and just keeping everything fair and just. That's what I imagine it would be like. So the things that I have written here are acts thoughtfully, partnerships as a weapon. So Mars is your warrior, right? Your warrior planet, how you go for what you want. So sometimes Libra's also about partnerships and others. So sometimes, you might have somebody else that could do your dirty work for you and keep your hands clean. So that's why I put that. Next could be passive aggressive. Seeks to restore harmony. They despise unfairness, so everything has to be fair. Now keep in mind your Mercury, Venus, and Mars, these are kind of more like tools that you have in your toolbox to get jobs done. So when you jump into a certain energy like love or going for your goals or communicating, you might reach into this tool bag to use this. But your main three elements of your personality are going to be your rising, your sun, and your moon. So that Aries, about it, initiator, self, fiery, and sign, and then your Leo, regal, bold, queen-like energy, and then your Scorpio moon, which is deep depth, intensity, and even like kind of sexual. A Scorpio too. So those are the signs that the planets land in, which is your like basic energy and personality and temperament. Now, if we go a little bit deeper and look at which house each of these planets land in, we can see what area of life this plays out for you most, like where you put a lot of energy into. So we'll start with your sun sign. So your sun is your actions, right? How you want to be seen in the world. And you actually have your sun in the fourth house, which is represented, I have here on my board, as home. So you're going to put a lot of yourself and who you are and how you want to be seen is related to home and domestic issues and things like that. So basically, you know, we're not doing shit until the house is clean. So like, put that broom down, Stacy. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that was like a joke. But yeah, so you're gonna put a lot of energy to home and domestic issues and things like that, and that's gonna be very important to you and how you're seen in the world. And I put these little nicknames, they're kind of just like as jokes. So for sun in the fourth house, I put the caring homebody. All right, so next we have your moon. So that Scorpio moon actually lands in the seventh house, which you can see here is represented by a wedding ring because it's all about relationships and others and relating to others. So a lot of your emotional security is going to depend on your relationships with others. And I'm sure that can be difficult at times, right? Because we can't depend on other people. People can change at any moment. So it must be a little bit hard to have your emotional security dependent on something that's a little bit out of your control. But probably learning more about astrology and things like that, you can find ways to gain emotional security without having to worry about what anybody else. Yeah, so the nickname that I put for this placement is the relationship junkie, and these are just for fun. Next we have your Mercury, which is how you think and communicate, and you also have this in the fourth house, so you might have a lot of you might be thinking a lot about home and about private issues and domestic issues and family and things like that. For the nickname for this placement, I put the sentimental analyzer. So next we have your Venus, which is how you love, and that lands in the third house. So this house I have here represented by a telephone. It has a lot to do with communication and the familiar places, spaces, and things. So you're probably going to love, what's familiar faces, places, and things. You might even find love in this area. And communication is going to be very important to you in love. So I actually put the nickname for that is the sapiosexual. So probably for somebody to get into your heart, they're also going to have to get there through your mind and be able to communicate with you. And since you have a Cancer Venus, you might really find attraction towards another by communicating about home and family issues, domestic affairs, things like that, and relating in that way. So next we have your Mars, how you take action and go for your goals. And you have that in the seventh house too. So you probably, like, when you're going for things, a lot of times like are thinking of others, and that could probably be annoying. But anyways, the nickname that I have for this is partner in crime, because like we said, Mars is your soldier, and Libra in the seventh house is about relating to others. So you're the perfect partner in crime. Yeah, so that's just a little basic reading, and I'm still of course learning so much and just getting my feet wet with astrology and everything. But I do find it fascinating, and I find your lineup fascinating, and definitely can relate to some placements that you have here, and I know how that is. One other thing that I do want to add, and I'm probably going to make a video about this later, is another placement in astrology called your North Node. So our North Node is kind of like where we're going and where, you know, kind of like our destiny and where we're headed to in this life. So you actually have a Cancer North Node. So Cancer energy is about home and family and stuff like that. So it kind of is your destiny to, you know, have that nurturing motherly energy and kind of move away from the Capricorn energy of you know, being a boss and, you know, being the in charge of everything and going for your career and status and money and things like that. So you're kind of moving away from that and moving more into Cancerian energy, and you know, also even like blending those two together to, you know, reach your fullest potential. And you have this energy playing out in your third house, which is familiar faces, places, and things. So kind of like if you could find a way to take a business, like a home business, and provide that around your local environment. That's like an example of, you know, what could possibly be a destiny for you. But that's a whole nother video, and I'm still learning about it and figuring out ways to discuss it with others and everything. But I did want to mention it mention it to you. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for letting me do your reading, girl. There's of course like a whole lot more to it than this, but this is like a good foundation and starting point. And I don't know, maybe you've already been studying astrology, but I would definitely encourage you to go look up that Scorpio moon more and learn more about that. Anyways, I'm rambling, so thank you, girl. Bye.